The Testaments, Season 1, Episode 10 Recap. Review and Ending Explained, Secateurs. Episode 10 of The Testaments delivers a dramatic and emotional finale that ties together many of the season's biggest storylines while planting the seeds for what comes next. Titled Secateurs, the episode explores grief, sacrifice, rebellion, and survival inside the brutal system of Gilead. It's a finale packed with emotional confrontations, shocking decisions, and major character growth, especially for Agnes, Becca, Daisy, and Aunt Lydia. The episode opens in the devastating aftermath of Becca being taken away following the death of her abusive father, Commander Grove. Agnes is completely shaken by everything that has happened. Her heartbreak grows even deeper when she secretly reads the autopsy report. The details are horrifying. Becca didn't simply stab her father once in self-defense. She attacked him repeatedly in a frenzy of fear and rage, leaving wounds across his body that ranged from 1 to 4 inches deep. The report makes it painfully clear how much trauma Becca had endured for years. It also highlights the emotional damage caused by Gilead's system, where women and girls are constantly silenced, ignored, and treated as property. Becca's violent reaction is less about murder and more about years of abuse finally exploding outward. At school, the atmosphere is tense and gloomy. All the girls gather in the dining hall, where Vidala coldly announces that Becca will no longer attend school following her father's death. The announcement is clearly designed to maintain order and suppress questions, but Agnes struggles to contain her emotions. Overwhelmed with anger and guilt, Agnes rushes outside and lashes out at Garth, pounding his chest in frustration. She is furious that nobody protected Becca sooner. Aunt Estee quickly arrives to stop the scene from escalating further. In Gilead, a woman striking a man is considered a serious offense, even if emotions are running high. Surprisingly, Agnes avoids punishment. Garth calms the situation instead of retaliating. He comforts Agnes, showing once again that he is very different from most men in Gilead. Aunt Estee harshly tells Agnes to snap out of it, but the moment passes without further consequences. Meanwhile, Aunt Lydia visits Becca in prison. Becca is emotionally shattered, exhausted, and terrified about what will happen next. Lydia genuinely seems to want to help her, but she faces resistance from the prison matron and the larger Gilead system. Commander Judd is also present during the meeting, and he is furious about the scandal. Even though Commander Grove himself was abusive and corrupt, Judd cannot tolerate the idea of a woman killing a commander, especially his own daughter. To him, Becca's actions threaten the authority and image of Gilead itself. Judd insists that an example must be made out of Becca. However, rather than ordering her execution, he decides on what he calls a merciful punishment. Becca will be sent to the Red Center and forced into the life of a handmaid. For Becca, this is essentially another form of imprisonment. Back at school, Daisy, Hulda, Shu, and Agnes quietly discuss the truth about what happened. Shu wants answers, and eventually the girls reveal that Becca killed her father because he had been abusing her. The revelation changes everything. For the first time, the girls fully understand how dangerous the men in power truly are. Instead of remaining passive, they decide they need to help Becca somehow. Agnes then takes a major step forward in her character development by confronting Vidala directly. She accuses the aunts and Gilead's teachings of helping create situations like Becca's abuse. Agnes bitterly explains that she prayed for someone to save Becca, but nobody ever came. These words clearly hit Vidala harder than expected. The confrontation is one of the strongest moments in the episode because it exposes the hypocrisy of Gilead's moral system. The girls are constantly taught obedience and purity, but when they actually need protection, the system abandons them. Agnes later approaches Commander Weston in hopes that he can help free Becca. At first, Weston dismisses her concerns and treats the matter as political inconvenience rather than human tragedy. Desperate, Agnes finally reveals the truth. She was also one of Grove's victims. That confession changes Weston's attitude immediately. Horrified by what he hears, Weston promises to do what he can to help Becca. It's one of the few moments in the episode where someone in power actually responds with empathy rather than self-interest. As a result of Weston's intervention, Becca is temporarily released and allowed to return home under heavy surveillance. However, her freedom is fragile. She is still expected to face formal questioning before eventually being handed back over to the state. Elsewhere, Daisy's storyline takes an important turn. Mayday secretly contacts her and instructs her to meet inside a truck at 10 p.m. Daisy manages to escape the ants and is hidden inside a barrel before being smuggled out of Gilead. At the docks, she reunites with June. June tells Daisy that her mission is over because she has become too reckless and difficult to control. Daisy's emotional involvement with Agnes and the girls has made her a liability. However, the conversation changes when Daisy starts talking about Agnes. Hearing details about her daughter softens June considerably. Daisy refuses to abandon the girls trapped inside Gilead and insists on continuing the fight. Eventually, June gives in and allows Daisy to return. This interaction is incredibly important because it reconnects June emotionally to the ongoing battle inside Gilead. For much of the season, June has operated from a distance, but now she finally sees hope again. Daisy sneaks back into Gilead with help from Garth, and together they invent a cover story involving Daisy secretly smoking on school grounds. Daisy also begins challenging Aunt Lydia more directly. She questions what Lydia is actually doing to save Becca. Surprisingly, Daisy's boldness appears to affect Lydia. Lydia has always been one of the most complicated characters in the Handmaid's Tale universe. She supports Gilead's system, yet she also genuinely believes she is protecting girls in her own twisted way. Daisy's criticism forces Lydia to confront the reality that the system is failing the girls she claims to care about. At the same time, Lydia has an important conversation with Vidala. The two discuss Becca and the broader problems surrounding the girls. Vidala eventually references the stadium incident from earlier in the season, hinting at painful experiences from her own past. Lydia believes Vidala adapted easily to Gilead, but it becomes clear that Vidala has her own hidden trauma. Rather than continuing to clash, the two women decide to work together. This alliance becomes critical to Becca's survival. Lydia and Vidala visit Becca together and come up with a risky but effective plan. They decide to rewrite the story entirely. Instead of Becca taking responsibility for the murder, her mother will confess instead. It is a devastating sacrifice. At the same time, Agnes faces another personal setback. Commander Weston suddenly calls off their engagement after learning about her abuse. It's unclear whether his decision comes from compassion, fear, or concern about scandal. Paula reacts horribly to the news. She spirals into bitterness and rage, furious that Agnes has lost such a valuable marriage opportunity. In one painful scene, Paula scrubs the bathroom aggressively while ranting about how ungrateful Agnes is. Paula even implies Agnes should feel lucky she wasn't mutilated or punished worse because of her past. The confrontation reveals just how deeply Gilead has damaged Paula psychologically. She values survival and status over Agnes's emotional well-being. Finally pushed beyond her limit, Agnes leaves the house and seeks out Garth. She goes to the men's quarters and demands that he continue with their engagement. More importantly, she indirectly confesses her feelings for him. Garth already suspected the truth thanks to Daisy, but hearing Agnes finally speak honestly changes everything. Her courage convinces him to stand beside her. Meanwhile, Becca remains emotionally devastated. Her father is dead. Her mother is about to sacrifice herself. Her entire world has collapsed. Agnes comforts Becca during one of the episode's most emotional scenes. The two girls share a kiss, but the moment is layered with grief, confusion, comfort, and desperation rather than romance alone. The scene is intentionally subtle and emotionally complicated. Ultimately, the plan succeeds. Becca's mother is publicly executed before the commanders while Becca herself is spared and married off to Garth. The sequence perfectly captures the cruelty of Gilead. Survival always comes at a terrible cost. Back home, Garth gently helps Becca settle into the bedroom before locking the door behind them. The show deliberately leaves the situation ambiguous. However, Garth's behavior strongly suggests he is protecting Becca rather than forcing intimacy on her. He likely intends to create the appearance of consummating the marriage without actually hurting her. It's another reminder that Garth is one of the few genuinely decent men inside Gilead. The episode closes with several important conversations that set up Season 2. Daisy and Agnes finally discuss June openly. Daisy reveals the truth about Agnes's mother and her connection to the Resistance. Agnes struggles with the idea that June is considered a criminal by Gilead. However, Lydia responds by saying she knew June well, and that June never gave up. That final line carries enormous weight. It signals that Lydia may slowly be turning against parts of Gilead itself. Meanwhile, Daisy writes a message to June explaining that she plans to continue fighting. Her belief that there's nothing more powerful than a teenage girl becomes one of the episode's defining ideas. The finale successfully balances emotional payoff with future setup. It gives major characters meaningful development while keeping the larger conflict alive. Becca's storyline is especially tragic, yet hopeful. Despite everything she loses, she survives because of the sacrifices made for her. Thematically, the episode reinforces one of the franchise's core ideas. The bond between mothers and daughters can survive even the harshest depression. At the same time, the finale is not without flaws. Some plot developments feel overly convenient. Smuggling Daisy in and out of Gilead appears surprisingly easy compared to how difficult and dangerous similar missions felt in The Handmaid's Tale. Daisy also repeatedly speaks recklessly about sensitive information in public places without facing major consequences. Additionally, several girls openly challenge authority figures during the episode but avoid the brutal punishments audiences would normally expect from Gilead. Still, the emotional core of the finale remains strong enough to overcome many of these issues. Garth's role throughout the episode is particularly interesting because he acts as a grounded voice of reason amid the idealism and rebellion surrounding him. His decision to protect Becca instead of exploiting her adds important emotional nuance to his character. By the end of the episode, the stage is clearly set for an even bigger conflict moving forward. Agnes now knows the truth about June. Daisy has fully committed herself to the Resistance. Lydia is beginning to question the system more openly. And Becca's survival comes with emotional scars that will likely shape her future. With Season 2 officially confirmed, The Testaments leaves audiences with plenty of unanswered questions and emotional momentum. If the next season builds on the strengths shown here, particularly the character work and emotional stakes, the series could become a worthy continuation of The Handmaid's Tale legacy.